Dan Henry has generated over $35 million online, and one of his biggest, if not most important acquisition channels is his email marketing. But here's the thing, what he's doing is very, very different from all the so-called email marketing gurus. It's not copy-paste templates, it's not sounding like a sleazy salesperson, and it's definitely not about spamming your list until they unsubscribe. So in this video, I'm going to break down his exact system. We'll look at his actual emails, the psychology behind them, how his overarching system converts, and most importantly, how you can apply the same principles in your own email marketing so you can turn it into a profit generating machine. All right, so first let's talk about why you should even listen to me when I'm talking about this. So this is just some of the results that I've got for my clients. Here we have 30K in pipeline in 7 days, 5K in pipeline on day 1, 10.5K in pipeline in 10 days, and 10K in pipeline in 7 days, all through email marketing. And that's not it. There's even some pretty crazy metrics we've been able to get for a lot of our clients, like 95% open rates, 76% open rates, 70% open rates, 89%, 76%, and then 19% click rates, 41% click rates, 22% click rates, 28% click rates, 8% click rates. So those are all the results we've been able to get with our clients through email marketing. There's even more on Instagram if you want to check them out. And that brings me to who this video is actually for. So this video is for you if you're a high ticket coach, mentor, info seller, community owner, and maybe if you're an agency owner, if you have a single service agency. If you're making more than 10 grand a month, if you have client results, if you're open to new perspectives, and you have an email list, or you will have one soon. So if that's you, then this video will be useful. This is not for you if you are under 10 grand a month, you have no client results, you are not open to new perspectives, and you have a closed mindset, and you do not have an email list and you don't plan to have one. If any of those are you, then please click off the video, because this video will not be useful for you. It's just going to waste your time. So if that is you, then continue watching. But without further ado, let's dive right into the source, and let's first break down the psychology behind his emails, because this is where the magic really starts. Now, when most people think about email marketing, they immediately think about, how can I write better subject lines that get me better opens, or how can I make my pitch in this email more persuasive? But what Dan does is Dan looks at it very, very differently. He looks at it from a psychological point of view. For him, it's about controlling attention and perception. Two things that most people, first of all, don't even understand, and they completely overlook. He's really dialed in how to influence, how to hook, and how to condition people on a psychological and on a subconscious level. He really understands the psychology. And one of the biggest ways that he does this is using his hooks. So let's start with his hooks and what makes them so good. So when he writes his subject lines, and this is we're mainly talking about his subject lines here, he doesn't try to be catchy, or he doesn't try to make them just sound good. He uses a very specific formula where he mixes curiosity with authority, saying something like, made a cool 150 grand, then grinded on my PS5. Now, the reason why this is so powerful is because it creates an irresistible pull. It taps into both the emotional and the logical. Curiosity teases the brain with an information gap. It opens the loop. So there's information that needs to be filled. And then the authority essentially makes that missing piece feel valuable and feel credible. So they trust that it's worth opening, and they trust that you're the right person to give them the information. So the mix, as I said before, taps into both the emotional and the logical. They want the answer, and they believe that you have the answer, and they believe that you are the right person to deliver the answer for them. Again, the example is, made a cool 150 grand. Making 150 grand immediately raises authority, and then grinded on my PS5. That raises curiosity. The second thing that he uses is something called one message psychology. So like, just imagine like a very, very everyday scenario. Imagine when you get a notification on your phone, like the little red notification that pops up on your phone when you get a notification, just one message, and you feel the urge to open it because this is a notification that's popped up, it's new, you want to check, it might be important. So Dan essentially replicates that in the subject line. So he makes it really short, really direct, and almost like it's a single notification that's waiting for you. Something like this email: 2 hours to go, you'll see. It's very intriguing, and it taps into this kind of message psychology hack, which is very, very similar to the psychology of seeing a notification on your phone and then opening it. And the third thing is segmenting. He's very, very good at segmenting his audience through his subject lines. Some subject lines are obviously written for more beginners and people who are earlier in their journey. Subject lines such as, what should I sell them? Or watch me build $1 million business from scratch. The offering and the overall tone and language used is targeted towards people who are less sophisticated. But then in some, he targets people who are more sophisticated and people who are more warmed up and probably follow him and know him more. Things like Almost Shit Bricks in Thailand. People who know him better, people who follow him more, might know that he's in Thailand. So it resonates more with them. Or something like why I stopped targeting instant coffee people. For a lot of beginners and less sophisticated buyers, that won't make any sense. But for more sophisticated buyers, that's very intriguing. And it increases intrigue, it increases curiosity in their brains. So that's something he's very good at. Filtering out different segments of people just using his subject lines and just using his language. And yeah, the point of it is that some people don't click on it. So each subject line is perfectly worded to fit in that certain category and to filter out the people who aren't fit. In fact, now that I've kind of explained that to you, let me go into my live inbox and actually show you some real emails. Now, I might disappear from the screen, but so let's just break down 3 emails, and let's break down the ones that I've opened. As you can see, I get hundreds of emails every day from email lists and from email lists I've subscribed to. These are the ones that I've opened from him. So let's just kind of analyze what made me open it. So let's start with this one: the backwards strategy behind my best ad. So the reason why this is so good is simply because, so when someone subscribes to Dan Henry's email list, they already know that he's an authority. He's made $35 million online. So my best ad, they know that ad must be pretty freaking good, okay? If he's made $35 million. And then is the backward strategy behind it. What does that even mean? That immediately makes the reader question now. What does that even mean? The backwards strategy. Why is it the backward strategy? Increases intrigue, increases curiosity. It's a curiosity and intrigue based subject line. That's why it's so good. The second one, let's do this one. Why terrible coaches outsell amazing ones. Again, extremely good, intriguing, curiosity based subject line. And he uses a contrasting statement. Terrible coaches, amazing ones. Like, imagine someone said to you, why terrible tennis players are better than amazing ones. Why terrible tennis players win Wimbledon and good tennis players don't. Like, it just makes no sense. So immediately increases curiosity, increases intrigue, and makes people open. And then finally, let's go with this one: $21,000 just to test it. So firstly, he starts with kind of a large sum, 21,000, and then kind of he minimizes the statement just to test it. So he maximizes kind of your perception. He maximizes your perception. $21,000. That's a large sum of money. And then just to test it, he minimizes it. So immediately people question, what is he dropping $21,000 on just to test? Again, this is kind of an example of the authority and curiosity mix. He's dropping 21,000, increases authority. Someone spending 20,000 on something automatically boosts your authority. Just to test it, increases intrigue and curiosity. So we can see just from those examples, he's really, really mastered the game of subject lines, especially curiosity and intrigue-driven subject lines. They're really, really good, and they're really, really intriguing and curiosity-inducing. All right, so now that you actually have a good understanding of his subject lines, Let's dive into something a bit deeper and the psychological triggers that he uses, which is not only about subject lines, but about a lot of other different things. So now I'm back on the board. Let's dive into it. So the first thing that he uses are pattern interrupts. And I'm going to go back to the emails here. And I want you to look in the corner here. You can see that, so this is his profile picture. And you can see that his profile picture is doing this weird thing where it's moving around in a circle. Now, this is a pattern interrupt, and it's called an animated profile picture. It's a moving visual element that makes the reader's brain stop, and it interrupts the pattern because people have never seen it before. People have never seen this before. Nobody uses this. So if you can hop on this and you can start using this in your email marketing, you can definitely start seeing better results. It interrupts a pattern. People probably get loads and loads of emails from different people every single day who they subscribe to their email list. And if you can use something like this, an animated profile picture, which is a visual hook, most people don't know you can have a visual hook, then you can hook people both verbally using your subject line and visually. And if you combine both of those things, it can be so powerful. So that was the first one, pattern interrupts. Now, the second one, which is kind of in parallel to this, is pattern creation. I'm going to go back here again. If you see, at the beginning of every single one of his subject lines, he uses this black dot, a black dot. But why does he use this? Now, this is very fascinating. He uses a recurring symbol, which is the black dot, because over time, it conditions his readers. They know that when they see that black dot, oh, this is a Dan Henry email. And since his emails are actually valuable and they provide value to people, it gets associated psychologically. They know that if they click on a Dan Henry email, then they're going to get value. They're going to get rewarded. And if Dan Henry emails are associated with this black dot that he uses at the start of each of his subject lines, then to put two and two together, everything ties together. When they see a black dot, it's a Dan Henry email. And a Dan Henry email means they're going to get value from it. So they open the email. And that conditions people over time. So they just continue to keep opening his emails. Again, it's tapping into the psychology. He really understands the psychology. It's kind of what I think about it. It's like the opposite of spam. Spam is when people see your name and they groan because you're just spamming them with a bunch of promos. Pattern creation is when they see your name and they get curious because they know that you have something more to offer them. Now, the third thing that he uses, and this is kind of a psychological trigger, but not really, is authority without arrogance. This is something he's really, really good at. People are sick of the Miami balcony, fluffy haired gurus flexing their Lambos and the striped screenshots. People are sick of it. Okay, so he's mastered a way to kind of flex and show his results without being arrogant and without seeming like a scammy guru. He positions himself like an expert, but without posturing. And the way that he does that is he uses vulnerability. What he does is he tells stories where he makes mistakes. He doesn't try to seem perfect. He tells stories where he makes mistakes. He shows his vulnerability. He jokes about himself, but the key is every story is framed to demonstrate his authority. Every story is framed to demonstrate his authority, then vulnerability, and then his expertise. It's not about being perfect. People don't like perfect people. It's about being real and relatable while still being perceived as the expert and as the teacher and as the leader. Fourth is he uses urgency without pushiness. And this is something that very, very few people can actually do. Most people are extremely pushy when it comes to getting their product done. They say things like, oh, hurry up, cart closes in 2 hours. This offer is disappearing in 3 hours. Act quickly. Using phrases like that, first of all, they completely tank your deliverability. If you're using phrases like that, you're going to be ending up in spam. And second of all, people can see through it. It's 2025. People are not stupid. So using language like that never works. So what Dan does is he uses the consequence of inaction. He uses situational urgency. So he'll say something like, keep doing this or you'll stay broke for the next 6 months as you have been for the last couple of years. So that's urgency without a countdown timer. It's, again, tapping into the psychology, creates FOMO, and it pulls emotional levers in the reader's brain. And the final psychological trigger is frequency conditioning. Most people are scared to send 2 emails a week. Dan, and I'll show you here, Dan sends 1 to 2 emails a day. He sends daily emails, even sometimes 2, 3, 4 emails every single day. And here's the thing, people expect it. The frequency itself conditions his audience to check their inbox for his next message. And if he stopped sending emails, people would notice because he's popping up so much. He's staying top of mind. And that's such a powerful position to be in, because now your audience actually your audience is paying attention to. You're living in your audience's head because of how frequently you're popping up and how you're staying top of mind in their world. So to sum up Dan's email psychology, he uses curiosity mixed with authority to hook attention. He leverages his subject lines to segment people and segment his audiences. He interrupts patterns and he creates patterns. He balances his authority with vulnerability to build more trust. He uses urgency without pushiness and without desperation, and he conditions his audience with daily, like 2 times a day as well, emails. So he conditions them. Now, what I'm breaking down to you here, this is the foundation. Without all of this psychology and all of these emotional levers in place, the rest of his system won't work, because his system is built on psychological levers and psychological triggers. But once you have it and once you understand it, then every email you send becomes so much more powerful. So now let's move on to the next layer, which is essentially the 4 types of emails that Dan actually sends and how each one is structured for maximum impact. All right, so now that we've got the psychology, let's move into the actual email formats that Dan uses to drive conversions. Now, this is where a lot of people do go wrong, because they rely on one style, they just tell endless stories, they spam promos, all of which don't work. So what Dan does is he rotates between 4 main styles and 4 main distinct types of emails. Each one has a clear role, and together they create a system which is designed to nurture, to educate, and to eventually sell without feeling spammy or without breaking his trust with his list. So let's break them down one by one. The first one is story emails, and Dan is really, really good at story emails. So this is literally the backbone behind his entire strategy. His story emails are really, really good, and it's where he builds his connection, his relatability, his trust, while moving the reader in a buying direction, in moving them towards making a purchase. Let's say, for example, his famous escape room email. If I go over to here, and if I type in his escape room email, give us a second here. Yeah, here we go. So this is one of his best performing and one of my favorite emails personally from him, which is this. Now, this is a story email. So let's just quickly break this down. So he starts with a hook. My wife still hates me for this. My wife to this day is still pissed at me for this. Something that's completely unrelated to business, which is being locked in an escape room and his wife being pissed. You're curious, how does this connect to what he usually talks about, which is marketing? Then he unpacks a story. He essentially just tells a story, the mistakes, the tension, the moment he figures stuff out, and everything. And from there, that's what happens all the way here. He pivots into a principle, a core principle, a life principle that relates to business, to marketing, whatever. And from there, he makes a soft transition into his CTA. So the structure is kind of like he hooks people in, then there's some context of the story, then there's the main narrative with all of the, the tension and all of that. Then is the principle, the life principle, the main core idea, the main core message, and then is the soft transition and the pitch to the offer. Now, why does this work? Why does this work? The reason why this works is because stories bypass sales resistance. Stories don't come off as salesy. So when you tell a story, the brain relaxes. People love being told stories. Instead of thinking, oh, he's selling me something now, the reader is immersed in the story and what's being happening. When someone tells a story, there's something called mirror neurons that get activated, where people put themselves in your shoes. People start imagining it from your perspective. So their sales guard immediately drops. And then when you make the transition, it feels natural. So, and hence it comes off as less salesy, and you're more likely to create more impact, and you're more likely to convince people to take the next step. Dan also uses what I call vulnerability bridges. And this is where, and we actually did touch on this before, but this is where he tells stories of his failures, of where he went wrong. And what he does is he crosses the stories, he crosses the vulnerability, and he ties it to his expertise. For example, he might admit that he wasted money on some ad campaign, but then he pivots into the lesson that he learned from it and how he fixed it, and eventually the result that he got from it. So he balances his vulnerability and authority. It's kind of like what we were talking about here, authority without arrogance. And that's exactly what he does in his story email, and that's one of the big proponents that he uses. So I'm telling you, if you copy just one thing from this video, if you take away one thing from this video, use story emails and learn story emails and really analyze story emails from Dan Henry, because his story emails are top quality. They are world class, and I think they're generally some of the best I've ever read. And that brings me to type 2. And type 2 is simply education emails, education and value emails, just pure education. Now, let me show you another great example here from him. So Dan calls this the Deadpool method in one of his emails. The Deadpool method. Why? Because he uses an analogy from pop culture to teach a principle in marketing. And the structure here is so simple, but it's so powerful. What he does is he creates a problem. Most people make it way harder than it needs to be. Then he uses an analogy. Imagine I created a book called The Ultimate Guide to Deadpool Insults. Who would possibly don't download that? So he creates an analogy. Then he presents the solution. Instead, you need to create something only your ideal clients would want, and everyone will not care about at all. And from there, he goes to the application and to the pitch. Obviously, there are a couple more things here, but overall, that's the main structure he uses. The problem, then he creates an analogy to help explain the solution, and then he presents the solution, then he applies it, and then he has a soft pitch over here. Essentially, he creates a bridge between something fun and relatable, which is a movie character, such as Deadpool, and then the marketing principle that he's teaching, which in this case is creating stuff that specifically target the people who you're trying to target and specifically resonate with those types of people, which is in this case, in this case, he was talking about a book about the ultimate guide to Deadpool insults, so he could target Deadpool fans. The key is that in these emails, he gives real value and he teaches frameworks, he teaches blueprints, he gives enough so that the reader has an insight, but also sees his authority, but at the same time, not so much that they feel like they don't need him, if that makes sense. They view him as the authority, but they don't feel like they rely on him. And this is the fine line where most people who try to give value, they miss. If you try to overload people with too much do-it-yourself mode and like too much information, which just tells them you need to do this, you need to do this, they get stuck in DIY mode. Like, I have to do all of these things. And what he does is he avoids that by teaching people in analogies and in frameworks, which naturally lead to his offers. And that brings us to type 3, which are reminder emails. Now, as you probably know, Dan runs a lot of challenges, webinars, launches, etc. And most people will just send a reminder or two, or just send the regular 24-hour, 4-hour, 2-hour, 1-hour emails. But he does it in a different way. What he does is he doesn't just repeat and send the same reminder emails every single time. He doesn't just do the 24-hour, 4-hour, 2-hour, 1-hour. He'll have those, but what he'll do is he'll add extra emails in between. And he'll send emails at this time to people who perhaps haven't also signed up. And what he'll do is he'll continue to provide value during the build up to the webinar. He'll continue to provide value to people, and then he'll wrap that value in a sign up for his webinar. So he's increasing signups for his webinar through his email. And on top of that, his deadline emails create FOMO for people who haven't signed up. So that further increases signups. So all of this is just increasing signups for his webinar, and his webinar is where he converts people. The more people that show up to his webinar, the more chance that he makes more money. So it's just this kind of loop of he creates reminder emails, he creates value emails, he offers the CTA, and he gets more and more people into his webinar, and he just makes more and more money. And what's brilliant here is he avoids this kind of trap of being the annoying marketer by providing value and then tying that value into the CTA for people to watch his webinar and show up to his webinar. He adds a new angle. He creates a new angle of like urgency and just a new angle in general. So he doesn't seem like an annoying marketer that's spamming his list with deadline emails. And that brings me to the fourth and final type, which are just the direct ask emails. And in fact, I'll show you one over here. Something like this. He literally just says, 1 hour from now, you'll know exactly how to make the sale, do this, join me now, and here's the link. Stupidly simple. He doesn't shy away from asking for the next step, but he does it very, very carefully. Firstly, is very, very, number one, simple. As you can see here, he doesn't use all of this fancy marketing language. I see a lot of people are like, install XYZ system to get clients on autopilot 24/7 chasing you. Like, that's extremely marketing and salesy type of language. He uses stupidly simple language, and he keeps it really, really short. He just says, this is the offer, this is what you're going to get, this is the urgency, and this is what you have to do. This is essentially the next step, and then he just provides a link. It's just basically offer CTA, and it's really, really short and really to the point and concise. No rambling, just straight outcome-based and to the point. And these work because by the time the reader sees them, they've been nurtured and they've been through a system. Like, I think people have this misconception with email that there's just this one magic email, or there's just this one magic pill that can suddenly blow up the whole business. No, he has a system. He has a proper system where people are being nurtured by his stories, by his reels, by his long form content. They're being educated through his frameworks, etc. So the trust is being built up within his audience. So when the pitch comes and when he sends emails like this, then it just feels like it's just the next step. It's the natural next step. And people have already been nurtured. People have already view him as the authority and view him as the right person to take them to where they want to be. So all that's left is just he needs to ask and they need to obey. And those are the 4 different types of emails. Story emails, which build connection and authority through narrative. Educational emails, which provide frameworks and insights, not just information. Reminder emails, which escalate urgency without being annoying. And direct ask emails, which essentially clear, direct call to actions when the moment is right. Together, they form a rotation. So you're not just hammering your list with the same type of email every day, but you're building trust, you're teaching value, you're reminding, and you're asking for the sale. That's why his emails don't just get opened, they convert. All right, now let's take it deeper. We've talked about the psychology, we've talked about the types of emails that Dan sends, but the $1 million question is, how do those emails actually turn into money? Now, this is where Dan's conversion bridges come into play. A conversion bridge is, by the way, a conversion bridge is simply the pathway that connects, in this case, your emails to your offers in a way that feels seamless. So let's break down 2 of his most effective conversion bridges. So the first one is the Epic Pitch Challenge, and the price point for this is $297. This is one of his signature front-end offers. Epic Pitch Challenge essentially just teaches people a variety of different things, priced at $297. Now, why is it $297? Simply because it is the sweet spot. Free offers leading into 2026 do not create any commitment. The market is flooded with freebie seekers. So when you release another free training, another free course, whatever, then you're just going to attract freebie seekers and you're not going to attract sophisticated buyers. $297 is on the higher end of a low ticket product. So you're going to attract sophisticated and high quality buyers. So that's the first part. That's the first part of the bridge, actually getting some skin in the game. Now, the challenge format itself. So the Epic Pitch Challenge, it runs for 5 days, which is deliberate because research shows that people can commit about 5 to 7 hours every single week. So running for 5 days is the perfect amount. And inside the challenge, what he does is his content does 3 big things. I'm going to write them down over here. His content does 3 big things. It builds conviction. It shows people why his approach works and will work for them. The second thing is that it builds authority. It proves that he is the right one to trust and he's the right one who can take them to their XYZ goal. And the third one is that it builds relatability through his storytelling, which as we already talked about, his storytelling is completely world class. It shows his journey, it shows his flaws, his vulnerability, so that his participants feel connected. And that's really where the bridge shines and where it makes him so much money. The sales video and then the upselling. Once the participants finish the challenge and they've been warmed up, they've seen some small wins, they see Dan as the authority, that's when he introduces the next offer, which he connects from here. If we move this down a bit, he introduces from here his next offer, which is a higher ticket program. And the reason why he gets so many signups for this from his pitch challenge is because he's attracted the right type of buyers. He's attracted sophisticated buyers, and sophisticated buyers value the importance of investing in themselves. They know the importance and the value of betting on themselves, investing in themselves into a program because they know it can accelerate their growth. So it just feels natural. It feels like the next step, especially because of the way that he pitches and the way that he communicates to people in the initial challenge. So his $297 a month challenge isn't just about making money up front. It makes a lot of money for him, but it isn't really about making money up front, but rather it's a bridge to something more high ticket, which is where the real money, the real millions are made. And that brings me to his second bridge and his second offer. Let's draw this out here. Bridge number 2, which is GCU, Get Clients University. It's a school group which is priced at $97 every month. Now, the psychology behind both of his offers is very, very different. One is a continuity model, which is this GUC University. Let me just write this down here. $79 a month. It's a continuity model, recurring. It's a recurring model for ongoing access to his training and his community. Now, the psychology behind it is different. Instead of selling a one-off course, which is what most people do, what he does is he creates a sense of belonging. He's selling belonging and a community. And if you look at basic psychology, something called Maslow's hierarchy of needs, in human psychological brain, they crave belonging. Humans crave belonging. So he's tapping into one of humanity's core desires. I mean, just think about it from your perspective. When you join a community, you don't just buy the content, but you buy the accountability, the connection, the community with other people, and the identity. By investing monthly, you're telling yourself that I'm the kind of entrepreneur who invests inside his growth. And that's a completely different psychological driver to a one-off challenge. A one-off challenge is just kind of like, I buy this one time and I solve this XYZ problem. I buy this one time and I get this result. Whereas this continuity model is more like, I buy this ongoingly, so I get more and more. I get better and better results, and I get more and more, and I get more a different selection of things on a monthly basis. And also the value proposition for both of these is framed very differently. The challenge is kind of relating to the psychology. The challenge is quick results, short time. The community is long-term support and long-term growth. And it's $97 a month. It's not that high. And so the barrier to entry is still pretty low. But he also offers another deal, which is his offer to pay a $997 a year subscription. Now, why does this work? Number one is it locks in revenue for him, so he has predictable cash flow. And number two is it locks in commitment for the member, so they're more likely to actually stay active if they've prepaid for a year, which is not only better for Dan, but it's better for them because they're going to be more committed. And from a business point of view, the continuity creates stability for him. Even if his high ticket sales slow down for a bit, then the recurring revenue is going to keep the machine running. So there's a mitigated risk because of multiple bridges. And on the topic of his high ticket, when he has these two fairly low barrier entry points and people have already spent money with him, then when people have already spent money with you and people have already invested into something that you've created, then they're far more likely to spend money with you later. So even if his high ticket is thousands, tens of thousands more, they're still far more likely to enter it simply because they view him as the authority, and he's built his authority. He's built conviction. He's built trust, relatability, everything within his lower barrier entry points. And since he's built that, the transition to his high ticket feels so seamless. So here's what happens. So just to summarize, here's what happens when you put these two bridges together. The challenge over here, it attracts sophisticated buyers and it gives them some quick wins, and it naturally leads to bigger ones later on, and it leads to bigger offers. The community keeps people engaged, it creates MRR and increases LTV. And it also eventually leads to his high ticket program. One creates momentum, which is the challenge. It starts to build momentum, and one creates commitment. The continuity model creates commitment in the buyer. Now, these bridges are powered by these emails. These emails are the sole reason and the sole driver behind getting people to enter his offers and to enter these lower barrier entry points. And if we want to be specific here, the story emails and educational emails in particular, both of these push people to the challenge, especially, and also sometimes the community. But mainly, these two focus on the challenge and also a chance to work one-on-one with him. And then the reminder emails and the direct emails are always focused on the challenge. He doesn't advertise his community too much from what I've seen personally. But yeah, this is how he uses his emails to essentially distribute and direct people to different offers and eventually lead them to his high ticket, which is his one-on-one. That's the system. So now that you can kind of see Dan's conversion bridges over here, you can kind of see his conversion bridges and how he moves people naturally from interest to commitment. That raises another question. How does he actually find people to put into these bridges? How does he get his traffic? So that's what we're going to break down next. His approach to traffic and lead gen and why it's so effective. So Dan doesn't overcomplicate traffic. He's not trying to be everywhere at once like a lot of people are. He focuses on 2 core channels and he uses them strategically to grow his list. The first channel is his Instagram. And what he does is he uses Instagram to nurture people on his stories, but he also uses ManyChat on Instagram very, very effectively in his reels and his stories, etc., to collect email addresses because he understands the importance of having an owned audience. Instagram helps him get visibility and gain attention, but the transition to the email list and the email marketing system gives him the real leverage because he knows that the real conversion happens through email. And when we break down his kind of whole system here, you'll see very visually that his email marketing is the center of his entire system. So that's his Instagram. And the second thing is his YouTube, where of course he's nurturing people through long form content. But what he also does is he directs people to 2 different places. Number 1 is his free training. And the second path is a direct link to work with him. That's the higher ticker angle. It's always present, but he never pushes it. Now, the 2-path strategy works here. And if I illustrate this, so he has a free training, but he also has his one-on-one, which is his high ticket. The reason why this works is simply because it respects where the viewer is. Some people simply are not going to be sophisticated enough to work with them one-on-one. And some people want to become sophisticated. They want to get to the right level. So he offers the free training. And I know that we were talking about how free trainings aren't as useful or aren't as powerful as they used to be. But again, from his free training, his main purpose is to direct people into his low ticket. And from his low ticket, the one-on-one, the high ticket stuff just becomes the next step. So here's essentially how it looks in, as an overarching system. So his Instagram and YouTube work together to funnel people into his email list. And his email list is really where the conversion happens to his programs. So his email list is the center of everything. It does most of the heavy lifting. But it's not like someone subscribes to his email list, they just read his emails and then they buy. That's not how it works. He has an ecosystem. His Instagram, his YouTube, and his email work together harmoniously. They work together. So even when someone subscribes to his email list, they're still going to be getting nurtured on Instagram. They're still going to be getting nurtured on YouTube. So even if the goal has been achieved to collect the address, he's still getting nurtured from all of these different touch points, which is going to build so much trust with people that when he sends these emails, direct ask emails, straight to people saying, I'm having a webinar, sign up for this webinar and show up live, then they're going to do so because of how much he's nurtured them, how much he's built trust with them, because of the system that he's built and the system that he has. Again, this is something I always say to all of my clients. We stop chasing the next subject line, stop chasing the next email marketing hack. And one of the first things you need to do is focus on building a system on trust. The traffic system that he has isn't about chasing every single platform or chasing a trend. It's about using essentially 2 or 3 strong channels, filtering everyone into his email list, and then letting the system continue to nurture them until they naturally gravitate towards him and buy from him and buy into his lower entry touch points. And then from his lower entry touch points, he further nurtures them. He further builds the authority. He gives them wins. Since they've paid him money, he needs to provide some kind of valuable wins to them. And then he funnels it into his higher ticket, which is where the real money is made. So we've talked about Dan Henry's essentially his entire email machine. The emails that keep people hooked, emails here that keep people hooked, the psychology behind everything that drives action, the conversion bridges that he uses to turn that attention into actual revenue, and the traffic system that he uses to keep his pipeline full and make over $35 million. But here's the challenge, it's easy to think and watch, wow, that's smart, but how do you actually apply that to your own business? So that's exactly what I'm going to break down to you right now, how you can apply the principles that Dan Henry uses in your own business so you can scale and you can make more money faster than ever before. Okay, so step one is to nail your core offer. If you look at Dan, he builds his entire system around just a handful of things. Get Clients University, the Epic Pitch Challenge, and his high-ticket mentorship. You don't need 20 different offers. In fact, you should probably just have one offer. Okay, Dan makes $35 million online. That's why he has 3 offers. But for most of you guys who are probably, making 10, 20, 30, 40 grand a month, all you need is one offer and maybe a low ticket offer. Okay, and that core offer should solve a real problem. It should be a painful problem that your audience actually really experiences. So ask yourself, what's the one result that my ideal client wants the most? And what's the simplest offer that I can create to deliver it? Step 2 is, and this is kind of like an optional one, but to pick your conversion bridge. You don't need to copy all of Dan's low commitment bridges. Just pick one, okay? Pick one low ticket thing. If you're new, what I would suggest from my experience working with my clients is to start with a low ticket challenge or community. It's the easiest way to package your expertise and to get people moving towards you, and focus on mastering that one bridge, because each of these different things, a challenge, a community, it takes completely different skills and completely different things to be successful in it. So pick one and stick with it. The third thing is to build the email backbone. Build the email system behind it. Dan's system lives and dies by email, as we broke down here. So build the email system, because that's where the real selling happens. Step 4, now, after you build the email system, is to choose one traffic source. In fact, sorry, no, don't choose. What I meant by that is create an ecosystem. Use Instagram and use YouTube. Use ManyChat on Instagram to collect email addresses, and also use Instagram to direct people to your YouTube. Now, your YouTube is where all the nurturing happens. That's where you can direct people to your low ticket, and you can also direct people into your email list. And then the final step 5, and this is the unsexy step, and this is the thing that not many people want to hear, but stick with it. Stick with it. That's at the end of the day, one of the reasons why Dan's machine is so good is because he's created a system and he's stuck with it for years and years and years, and he kept on testing and he kept on doing different things. He stuck with it for a long time. He doesn't reinvent the wheel every single month. He doesn't make drastic changes every single month. He runs the same challenges, the same trainings, the same core content, and he just keeps feeding new people into the system. Consistency and commitment compounds. So to wrap it up, here is the blueprint. Number 1 is to start with one strong offer. Number 2 is to pick your conversion bridge. Have some kind of low ticket thing that people can buy into. Number 3 is to build your email system. Number 4 is to create an ecosystem with Instagram and YouTube. And number 5 is to commit and to keep consistent. This is the foundation that Dan used to scale, and it's the same foundation that you can start building on today. Now, here's the thing. This isn't about copying Dan's subject lines word for word, or just replicating his entire ecosystem and just completely copying him. This isn't about that. This is about understanding the psychology and the principles that he uses in his marketing system, and then applying that to your own situation. The consistency, the positioning, the psychological triggers, the way that he builds a bridge in his emails to his offers, all of these different types of things. Don't copy him, but look at what he's doing, look at the principles and apply it to your situation. And here's the thing, I get that it can be confusing because there is, a lot of different technical things that are involved. And as a coach watching this, let me ask you, did you become a coach so you could build an email marketing system? And by the way, if you did become a coach so you can build an email marketing system, we should probably be friends. But you probably didn't. So if you do want someone who can handle the entire email marketing process for you, A to Z, all of the tech, all of the strategy, all of the writing the email, so you can take something off your plate and you can finally have an email marketing system that is a profit generating machine for you and just generates you endless profit 24/7, then there's a link down below to work with me if you want. But if you're not ready, then just click on this video next.